By next year, probably I want every household to have one packet of WastED.
I've not heard of someone using brewery waste as a input to their food product.
They don't have the best products. They're so bad, they're so dirty all the time. And I go to Puri very often, like sometimes 4 to 5 times in a month, in a year.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of our podcast. Today, we are diving into the world of sustainable food innovation with the founders of Let's Get Wasted, Radhika and Dishita. Let's Get Wasted develops the first of its kind upcycled food ingredient product loaded with fiber, protein, and having extremely low GI. Although they have only started recently, they have championed a very exciting and sustainable product. They've turned a brewing byproduct into a nutritional powerhouse. Radhika and Dishita, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mayan. Thank you for having us.
Great. So, Radhika, why don't we start with you? What is your background and how did you come across this idea? And finally, how did Let's Get Wasted come into fruition?
Very interesting. I am actually an architect by profession. I've worked and studied as an architect for close to 7 years. Left that, started working in the food industry when COVID hit. Realized that healthy was a segment that could be worked in, especially in a country like India, where affordability is very very important. So I started with Makhana. That is a separate business, but that's what gave me the sort of idea and alignment as to how the food business could work in India, whether or not there is any space at all. We actually, so my father's into over-the-counter grains trading as well. What
Okay.
he does is supplies in bulk. Of course, he supplies rice and maize to distilleries and breweries.
Okay.
So, and that is where, that got me thinking, if we're supplying the rice, if we're supplying the maize, what essentially is happening to those grains? Because
Okay.
the end product is liquid. So we did small tests through, I think, 4 or 5 breweries, and that's where I realized that most of the sugars, carbs, and fats are being extracted in the beer that is then consumed. But what is left over is the protein and the fiber. We got the product, did a few lab tests. Found out that we can create flour out of it. Kuch ban sakta hai. There is something that can be made. We didn't know what it could be, whether it's a booster, whether it's a normal atta. We didn't really know all of this. And I don't understand marketing or branding at all. That's when actually Dishita and I go long back. She had actually launched my Makhana brand as well. So I'd already worked with her before. That did really well. So I got the confidence ki, chalo, if I'm doing something new, I'm always going to have Dishita on board to sort of look at the branding and the marketing aspect. So that's when, she came in, and it's a very merry business marriage that we have, because I understand product, I understand how supply chain could work, but I don't understand marketing and branding at all. And that's what Dishita does best.
So, yeah, Dishita, moving on to you. What has your journey been? And how did you and Radhika meet for the first time? Like, do you go back to school or how did you come across her? And yeah, your entire journey so far and how did you enter Let's Get Wasted?
So, interestingly, I've been running a marketing agency for the past 7 years now. It's called the Orange Bulletin. And I met Radhika through a mutual friend, but she was a client first and then friend, and now almost actually family. So we've been working together for a while. We worked together at Kamlamrit. Then we had a couple of other wild project ideas, which we never got down to execute as well. But this has always been constant that both of us have been aware of our skill set, and we have a lot of things in common, which is what makes a huge difference to our relationship. And that's how we met. And since I was already doing marketing, and when Radhika came up to me and she was telling me about this product, honestly, initially it sounded pretty Greek to me also. I couldn't understand what she's saying. What is brewer's spent grain? How can beer be healthy? I thought she's just drunk. But then obviously we started researching on it together, and then I started giving her my input because she's so product involved that she thinks is from a certain perspective, and I gave her more of a sales perspective to it. And that's how we started understanding that, okay, this is going to be a viable business model. Then came the second part, like Radhika said, it was a merry marriage. It's literally like a marriage, because then you go to your parents and you tell them that, okay, now I have a new business idea. Happened to both of us. Both our parents thought we were crazy. We fought. Both of us fought both our parents, and it was almost like those Hindi movies where we decided that no, we're going to make this work. Then we started with our meetings because both Radhika and I were still running our businesses. So during human hours, we would run our existing businesses. And when everyone would sleep, we'd work on WastED. We spoke to, I think, over 1,000 people, if I may say, to understand how to go about this. So that was actually the best part of our journey because it gave us so much base and it made me understand product and her understand marketing. So after a point, by the time we got everything in place, it was almost like both of us knew whatever needed to be done. So that's how we met and that's how WastED started. And we hope to get everybody wasted now.
I think that really sounds very interesting. First, because the product is very unique. I've not heard of someone using brewery waste as a input to their food product. So number one, that is very interesting. What I want to understand is how did you come up with the name of Let's Get Wasted? Is there a story behind it, or is it something that just struck you while you were ideating the names for your company?
So, WastED was something because it was so related to alcohol and beer, especially. So, we were doing our general meeting trying to understand how to brand the product, how to brand the product. And then we wanted to go for something very environment friendly, like upcycle, or we were thinking more along those serious lines. But then someone on team suggested that why don't you do WastED? And I actually didn't take it that seriously. And then I went to Radhika and I was telling her that, someone suggested WastED. And that's where she caught on to the ED, which is the education part.
Education part.
So it became WastED, which
Yeah.
is how the name came along. And then eventually we went on to do we have a mascot called Mr. Brew Wise because we want to encourage people to brew wisely. So everything came along. At honestly, if you ask any founder how they got the name, nobody will ever have an answer. It's just that one moment and you like it and then you just roll with it. But yeah, it really helped. And then while we were doing this, because we did so many trials, we literally got wasted too many times. So I think that's how the name stayed as well.
Interesting. So we'll get into the intricacies of the brand and also your website and Brewwise as well. But before that, I want to understand that starting a food brand on upcycled ingredients is quite unique, first of all. But it would also have its challenges because you are basically giving these raw materials to brewery houses, and then they are actually disposing it, or it is kept somewhere else, and then you're using it as an input. So, what were some of the initial challenges that you faced in this business, and how did you overcome them?
I think the challenges are there. We've managed to overcome a few of them, actually, most of them, but some of the challenges are still there because our input comes from an already existing source, which means we have to make sure that our product is going to be human consumption safe.
Right.
We have our facade, we have all of the licenses, but for us to maintain the standards and the hygiene is something that we really need to make sure of. The reason why no one is doing this in India at least is also because the shelf life pre-processing of this product is not more than 4 hours. So essentially, once beer is brewed, we need to pick it up within 4 hours, and we need to sort of get the shelf life from 4 hours to approximately 4 months. We've managed to increase that from 4 months to approximately 6 months, but that is a very, very big challenge that we have because in India, the weather is such that it's not going to last. And it's a very wet and a hot product. So essentially, when you keep anything that is wet and hot in the sun, it's going to start fermenting. What that means is it's going to have an sour aftertaste, and that's not something that we can use for a staple like atta. So that was one challenge in order to procure the product. And, of course, because there's no copy paste that we can do from anyone in the country. In fact, there are about 5 to 6 companies in the world doing what we're doing. So essentially, it's not possible for us to copy paste from anywhere. So our machinery trials were massive. I think it took us some 1.5 years to get to our MVP. And between those 1.5 years, we've done some 7 to 10 odd machinery trials. That meant a lot of time, money, but it like today we're in a much better space because we're able to reach a product which is sellable. And I think that's what we've been able to overcome.
Yeah, I think having a very low shelf life is a huge challenge. So, just want to follow up on this. So you are transporting grains, and it would not usually be somewhere in the close vicinity. These factories or these brewery houses might be somewhere far off from your place. So that would take some time to travel. And then again, you're collecting the waste from those breweries and getting it back to your, say, hub to transform it into a food product. So in the 4 hours shelf life that the product has, it is also some time is also getting wasted in transportation. So how are you tackling that?
Right. So excise, which is the government body which allows alcohol manufacturing, actually creates red zones or red areas. Those are the
Okay.
only areas in any city where alcohol can be manufactured.
Acha.
So essentially, you will always find breweries in a cluster because red areas there. So in a city like Calcutta, there are only three red areas. And
Mhm.
only in those three red areas are you going to find any form of alcohol manufacturing. The only challenge that we had to do was make sure our facility, our manufacturing facility is so all of this is self owned, right? We don't do any corporate manufacturing. Our machine is self owned, our factory is self owned. So we made sure that wherever the cluster was, wherever the said red area was, we
Mhm.
are placed anywhere between 10 to 15 kilometers from that. Today, the brewery that we pick up from is actually only 7 kilometers from our facility, which makes the transit time not more than 12
20,
minutes, I
yeah,
think.
15, 20 minutes.
So
Yeah.
that's one challenge that we have.
I
But
think
but it's very easy to overcome that thanks to the government.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I didn't know there was a red zone policy for alcohol manufacturers. So I think that's a really good insight from your end. So now let's get into wasted and your products basically. So Radhika, if you could also walk us through the process you use to transform the grains into an upcycled food ingredient, like the step-by-step process, if you could just tell us.
Uh, sure. So most of the steps that are involved in the processing are actually proprietary, but I'll try to tell you as much as I
Yeah,
possibly
on a
can
higher
with an
level.
overview.
Yeah.
Essentially, the product would yeah, sure. So essentially, the product that we pick up has about 70 to 80% moisture, depending on the recipe of beer that we're picking up.
Mhm.
We try and stick to at least 90% of beer and malt. What that gives us is the very holistic product. There are recipes, beers that have about 40 to 45% of rice and maize, but we stick to recipes that have maximum barley and malt. We procure that the already have standing agreements with breweries or this we pick up the grain, our vehicle goes, picks up the grain, comes to the facility, we direct start processing from the minute the vehicle reaches our factory, because obviously we have a clock ticking as
Right.
well.
Hmm.
um, we first reduce the moisture down to 50%. After 50%, we have several processes where, because the problem with moisture and a grain is that you need to, so our main USP is protein. We cannot, we need to make sure that the nutrition is intact. For
Mhm.
us to do that, and that's contradicting sort of scenario where you want to keep the nutrition intact, you have to reduce the moisture. At the same time, make sure everything is done within 3 hours. Essentially, the first hour is already gone in transit, and obviously loading, etc., etc. So supply chain has taken up 1 hour. We only have 3 hours to process this product now. If we reduce it to 50%, we already have a good product, a good shelf-stable product.
Mhm.
Cannot be stable for more than close to 2 hours. In the 2 hours, what we do is we have processes in between. We have some filters, we have dryers in place. With a step-by-step process, what it does is reduces the moisture down to some 5 to 6%. So we have a bandwidth of 5 to 6, and we don't go beyond 6. Once that is reduced, we grind it down into flour.
Oh, okay.
So everything is a game of not heat.
Got it. So since this is a new thing in the market right now, using the waste from the brewery, what does the waste cost you in a per ton basis or a per kilo basis? Um, like, do they give it for free, or is there usually a cost involved around it?
So they do. There's a cost involved for all the macro breweries that we work with.
Okay.
The we currently we're working with AB and Bev. AB and Bev manufactures Budweiser, Corona, etc. So there's definitely a cost involved, especially because 3 kgs of the raw material, rather 3.5 kgs of the raw material gives us 1 kg of the finished product because of the amount of moisture involved. So we end up paying to the people who we are picking up for. It's not even a waste, it's actually a byproduct from. And then we end up processing it at our factory, and that gives us our final product, which is almost 25% of the total product that we put as an input. So there's a cost involved in this also, because this product was initially used by people just to transport and use it as cattle feed. But because nobody could figure out technology to dry it in real time. And that's one of the main problems that we want to solve is we want to systemize this whole process, make it easier for the breweries also, because depending on like multiple transporters versus coming to us wasted as an aggregator would be much easier for them. So that's one of the other problems that we wish to solve with this.
Got it. So, what I was wondering is, before you all came in, what was happening to the waste that these breweries were producing? Like, were they only being used as cattle feed, or were they also being used for some other purposes? And now that you've come in, I was of an opinion that since this is already like a waste and not maybe a byproduct that they're using somewhere else, you would have gotten it for very cheap. So your input cost would have been very low. But now it sounds like it is not actually very low, and also that, as you mentioned, the amount that you collect is actually reduced much further because of the moisture in the product.
So what essentially happens is that when firstly it is a byproduct, and this was earlier used for cattle feed, or honestly with microbreweries, and a lot of the product that could not be used as cattle feed because, like Radhika explained, it gets aflatoxin, or it catches it rots really fast. So that would be discarded into landfills. And there was a crazy amount of grains that was just being discarded to landfills because since it rots, it has a particular smell. So nobody wants to keep it in their facility. And imagine the people living around the place where this was discarded, because nobody knew how to work with it properly. So that was one major challenge that was happening. Other than that, it was just used as cattle feed.
Right.
And there are other uses of the product, which honestly, Radhika, correct me if I'm wrong, nobody in India as of now has been able to do. We are also additionally working on packaging. We would want to use it for producing energy at some point. There are probably, I think, 10 more uses which can be done if we all get an R&D team attached to it. But in India at the moment, scenario is simple: either in dumps or as cattle feed, or wasted will pick it up.
Great. So let's now move over to your website and let's just walk through your products that you have. And maybe then you can also share how your products are unique as compared to other players in the market, or what is the product differentiation compared to each other. Like you have 3 or 5 different products, and how are each of them different? So maybe you can walk us through that. All right. So maybe Dishita, you can walk us through your website and the different products that you have and how they are different from each other.
Sure. So our main product would essentially be Flour 365, which is the atta booster. This is what you add to normal atta to increase protein and fiber. So I'll just quickly mention data which a lot of people might not understand. So I'll draw a comparison as well. Our product has 30 to 32% protein, 45% dietary fiber, and it has zero sugar. So first explaining the sugar, even when we are having normal wheat flour, which is atta, what each of us eat at home, that also has natural sugar in it. So that whole concept of why diabetic people should not eat atta comes from the fact that even the grains have naturally existing sugar. But in our product, what happens is, like Radhika explained, during the brewing process, all the sugar and fat gets extracted. That's what you're actually drinking in beer. So what remains is our flour, which is highly nutritious. So that is our hero product, which is called Flour 365 slash the Atta Booster. Just a disclaimer here before I go on to the other products. We are redoing our packaging and website because of all the feedback and, well, immensely great feedback that we got from different people. And that should also be live in a few days, but the products remain similar.
Okay.
So, the other three are actually blends which focus on three main issues what we feel that people were facing in India and
Okay.
did not have an alternative for it. So
Hmm.
one is protein. Most people who go to the gym, I go to the gym, so does Radhika, and both of us do not like consuming the naturally existing, the commercial protein powders that come. And
Yeah.
we keep looking for these natural ones.
Okay.
When it comes to those which are plant-based protein powders, again, that whole issue comes in of like including it in our meals or like finding some time in the day to actually consume it.
Hmm.
What we always prefer is choosing healthier options. So then we realize that this would be like a great blend to make anything out of it. Whether we eat any paratha made of the protein blend, it's almost like having sattu ka paratha without the sattu in it.
So just one
So
just one
that
question here. Just one question here. So flour 365, is it pure barley? Because you said it has almost zero sugar. Or are you mixing it with atta as well?
uh,
Because yeah.
So it's actually just a product, which our product itself is not pure barley because it's double sprouted barley. Since it's barley with all the sugar extracted, so it's 80% of double sprouted barley and 20% of other grains.
What do you mean by double
Uh,
barley?
So what happens in the brewing process? There is sprouting twice. Like once when you are brewing it and during fermentation, etc., and once eventually. So
Oh,
that grain, and plus it is also being cooked in our dryer. We have a like the process was explained. We also have a facility where we are reprocessing it. So
hmm,
because it is sprouted twice, all the sugar gets extracted from it, so eventually, flour 365 does not even have any natural sugar.
got it. Okay. And what are you mixing it with? Like other types of flours?
We are not mixing it with anything. So the beer itself is
Hmm.
made out of 80% barley and there's a 20% mix of other grains depending on the flavor they want to put to the beer.
Oh, okay.
So we are literally picking up that and processing it. The only thing that we do is we make it viable for human consumption by ensuring quality checks, by ensuring the timely processing of it, and of course, our proprietary process of drying it is involved. That's the only thing that we are doing. We are not doing any chemical tampering to it because Radhika and I were of the firm opinion that it has to be something which is not touched by any chemical. Honestly, if we do go ahead and do chemical tampering to it, we can increase the shelf life, reduce our cost of production like crazy. But we've not been keen to do that.
Okay. And so you mentioned that the other three products, the protein and diabetic friendly and the grain flour, all of these are blends. So what do you mean by blends here? And how are they exactly different from flour 365? I understand that they have higher protein, but then is there anything for the protein flour? Is there anything else which is different? And why do you call it a blend?
So Flour 365 is essentially a recipe booster that can be added in any recipe that you can imagine from across breakfast to dinner. So for breakfast you can include it in pohas, upmas, pancakes, breads, you name it. For lunch you can include it for chapatis, any namkeen that you're having for snacks, and for dinners if you're having any soups or salads. Essentially any ingredient, any recipe
As
that
atta.
has flour as an ingredient, you can essentially add swap you can swap our flour with your normal flour. So there are people who've told us that they've done 2 spoons of besan in their curry, and they've added 1 spoon of our flour in their curry. So if someone is using the our product in a curry to sort of increase the nutrition, I think there's massive potential for the flour boost for the flour 365, which is called the Atta Booster. What essentially these three blends do are these cater to the convenient angle where we do not want to change your habit, right? We do not want to change your staples. But what we do want to do is give you a good quality product.
Oh,
Mayank, if I can ask you, what is the brand that comes into your mind when you say, listen, here a multigrain flour as an SKU? What brand comes into your mind?
I think Aata Shakti, the ITC brand, Ashirwad, I would say
Yeah. So
multigrain.
right, that's that's what most people say, right? Atta Shakti or Ashirwad as the multigrain brand, but the catch here is Ashirwad does not have more than 9% of multigrains. So essentially, it's 91% whole wheat flour and just 9% of the multigrain. What we do instead is for our 9 grain flour, we have at least 35% of the multigrain
Wow.
with even less than 50%. So actually, the 9 grain fibrous flour is the only blend that has about 55% of our whole wheat. Rest, the entire blend is made out of other grains, which are much healthier, can balance out the cons of wheat flour. For the diabetic friendly blend, we don't have more than 30% of wheat flour. The wheat is also included. The only reason wheat is included in this blend is also to give a little binding, to give a little texture and flavor profile, because this wheat is something that everyone is used to, be it a diabetic or a non-diabetic Indian household.
Mhm.
For the high protein blend has the highest protein that you can imagine. It has 42 grams of protein.
So, Dishra, maybe you can take this up. So, in general, in the food and nutrition industry, there are various players. So, do you intend to produce any other product? Because you started with flour, but now do you intend to uh, produce any other product which can be used uh, maybe in supplement with what you're already creating?
Sure. So when it comes to WastED, our whole goal of keeping the company's name WastED was two reasons. One, we always want to work with something spent, that is a byproduct. So on the wider aspect, that is another, that we are already looking at other spent products like spent millets, etc.
Mhm.
But that is a future plan. But when it comes to you asking that would we create anything other than flour? Of course. So initially, when we had thought we want to launch, firstly, just explaining a little about our sales channels. So right now we are focusing more on B2B, which is business to business,
Mhm.
and we supply to companies like Radhika mentioned, Low Foods, who create products for the for the diabetic market.
Mhm.
So that is one segment that we're supplying to. Other than that, we're also supplying to, you'll be surprised to know, but very traditional snack companies who
Mhm.
make matri, etc. In
Mhm.
fact, it's very interesting to know that those are the people who actually care about what actually goes into the product, because they were one of our first adopters at scale who wanted to make their existing snacks healthy. So this whole concept that Indian snacks are fried and they are just not, you should not eat it,
Mhm.
that scenario also is changing, which is a very interesting thing that Radhika and I both noted. Other than that, there are industries which we are targeting as well, like the soya buddy industry, which focuses on protein. So this is a great addition to increase protein, at the same time not increase sugar of a product. So people who are into food development will understand what a huge concern sugar increase becomes. So
Mhm.
that's why B2B has, touchwood, been so far so good for us. Though we've really spoken to, I think, over 500 companies by now, and we're trying to get more and more people to adapt. And to anyone who's listening, if you know anyone who's running a food company and looking to experiment, please reach out to us, because more than anything, like we said, this is more of a food revolution that we want to start. So that's one aspect to it. And when it comes to the ultimate consumers, of
Mhm.
course, flour is just one product. Ultimately, we want to scale it in two ways. One, we want to launch snacks, ultimately, that is going to be ready to eat and people can easily consume it. When it comes to B2C, we also, which is business to consumers, we are looking at a couple of things. One, of course, is the flour, which is always going to be our hero product,
Mhm.
which includes the booster and the different kind of blends that we are targeting.
Mhm.
But other than that, we want to have SKUs like snacks, etc., which will be a second stage probably. One more interesting thing that Radhika and I definitely want to do is involve the community. So one of our main testers for the products have been bakers, and not the like definitely the very good ones, but also the smaller bakers who actually know what is going into their product and who would care. Because again, large scale baker can get something like an almond flour and charge that much. But if you go to a local bakery and ask them for a healthier product, you're not going to pay them the price that they can afford to pay for almond flour. So
Mhm.
that's again a huge target for us. So this again expands to the whole concept of home kitchens, etc. Then people who make tiffins for other people. So because with the India perspective, that is how we see the market growing, and that's another community that we would love to tap into, which would be more of these ladies who make food for different office tiffins, people, corporate canteens who are making food in bulk but want to include a nutritional element. So that's why Radhika and I have been very conscious about the type of people we are targeting with this, because ultimately the goal is to build a community for a fitter India.
Great. So I have two follow-ups here. So the first one is you mentioned that you went into a B2B into the B2B segment first, which I also feel is a very good option because firstly B2B gives you it gives you orders in bulk. So it gives you bigger orders for you to actually get down your cost in comparison to say a B2C person who would give you very small orders of say 1 kg, 2 kg, whatever. So number one, I think that is a great thing to start with. But were there any other reasons for you to start with the B2B segment? Maybe because you already had tie-ups because of your background in the grain business, or were there some other reasons that you considered?
We didn't,
We've actually
I
had, yeah, we've not used any connects, any backgrounds. We're very proud of it, but neither of us we've not used any connects. Actually, for us to start B2B, one was also to get acceptance. For a product that has no awareness, it needs acceptance. For us to go consumer base first was very easy actually, because atta is something that is consumed just like that, right? And for a country like India, where everyone is consuming atta, something that is for 300 rupees a kg, essentially you're going to use it across 2 weeks because you're just adding one spoon to a recipe, right? So 300 rupees 600 rupees 1 month. It's not a very expensive thing to use in a normal Indian household. Even like a normal middle class household is not very expensive. So that was the easiest step for us. The
Okay.
reason why we didn't choose that was because we had to still perfect our product. We didn't really know that if we created something, obviously we've sent samples to close to 600 people today, I think. 600 founders, 600 people who are heavily and actively involved into healthy foods, and obviously people who are into masses. So we've sent samples to a lot of the larger companies, gotten LOI, gotten letter of intents from them as well, saying, your product is nice. We've approved the product. Whenever we do our next R&D trial, we're going to be using our product, and we have all of this in written. So this has taken us approximately 6 months to do, and now is when we have a perfect product. Only now can we go into D2C because it's taken us 6 months to do all of the trials as well. And that would not be possible without the said samples that we've given out, because every time we've given out a sample, someone's told us that, this is working for me. Like maybe this is working for me, but this is one aspect that is not working for me. Can
Okay.
you do this for us? Every time someone tells us, can you do this for us, we've tried to do it. And if it has been possible, we've tried to create a product like that as well. I think that is when you sort of get the confidence that a product perfect hai. Now is when we can go into market. Now is when we can actually put our faces even on the packaging and say, this is the best flour that you can possibly consume at the most affordable price. I don't think we had that confidence 6 months ago,
So would you say that
honestly. I
even some
mean,
of the other brands?
Dishita is super excited. Sorry?
Well, go ahead, go ahead.
Dishita is super excited about D2CR. I mean, I am still not ready for it, I think. But Dishita herself has like taken it on her that, I'm going to do these exhibitions. She's done multiple exhibitions on her own just to get the feedback from normal people as well. Because I'm the one who sort of pushes towards B2B ki ye karna hai, ye karna hai, ye karna hai, isse volume aa raha hai, isse acceptance aa raha hai.
Exactly.
Some money is going to flow in for the marketing for the D2C. And with Dishita is like, let's just get single-handed feedback as well. Let's get moms to tell us that this product is working for us. Let's get senior citizens to tell us that we were eating jawar roti, वो फूलती नहीं थी, हम आपकी रोटी खा रहे हैं, normal रोटी के जैसा टेस्ट आ रहा है, and it's actually like normal रोटी के जैसा टेस्ट कर रहा है, फूल भी रही है, crispy भी है, सब कुछ कर पा रहे हैं. It's not like the chidda bajre ki roti or the there are people who have told us that we've been adding wheat gluten to our normal roti. But what wheat gluten does is it increases the protein, maybe, right? You can achieve 40 grams, 40% protein, but it's not going to taste like your normal roti
Normal
ever. I
roti.
think that is something that we've really wanted to perfect. So Dishita has gotten really good responses from the exhibitions as well. I think that's also one very good boost that we've gotten as a company, that our product might be able to be successful in D2C as well.
So you're saying that your rotis, even though they have, say, higher proteins or different, say, composition, they still taste very close to the normal rotis that we have.
I think we miss this. There's no texture or taste change with our product.
Wow, I think that
Yeah.
is quite something, because I was of the
Yeah.
opinion that since you're making it of barley, number one, second, it is of a much different composition than the normal flour. It would definitely taste different. But when you're saying that it tastes almost similar, there's no such difference in taste. I think that is huge, because people don't like to change their habits so easily. If they are eating that roti for the
100%.
last, say, 30, 40 years, suddenly someone comes and tells them to eat something else, it's a very difficult switch to make.
100%. People are just like, Abhi tak we are fine. We're just going to continue with this. Maybe once in a week we want to be healthy. This is our not a cheat day, but this is our health focused day. And maybe we'll have your flour. वो वैसे होता है if you look at any other millet for that matter. I don't think millet was also done really well in India. There has been a massive acceptance for millets as well. But still, millets aren't something that you can use on a daily basis because people are too used to their soft rotis.
Of
People
roti.
are too used to their aate ka halwa and they would not go for a millet halwa.
Hmm.
That's sort of something that we really want to tap into. We want to tell you that have your normal roti, बस एक चम्मच हमारा आटा डाल दो. Yeah, if you're using say 2 cups of your atta, just put 2 spoons of your atta. We're going to promise you that the nutrition is going to increase,
Hmm.
but we're going to promise you another thing, that the taste is not going to change. So essentially, आपके लिए एक मेहनत है that you're going to be adding 1 spoon, but it's the taste is not going to be different, especially for the person who is in the kitchen, who is cooking, knows about this difference.
Hmm.
Anyone who has been served this on the table, they will not know the difference. And in fact, we've done a lot of these blind trials as well. There are
Wow.
people on video who've come and said that our kids did not feel any
Recognize.
difference in your services. Yeah. Well, ultimately, I hope we can use that for our social media as well, which again, Dishita is going to look at completely.
Another thing which I remember right now is Radhika mentioned about millets, and I was also reading how millets is an item which is hugely exported from India. So, to Radhika, number one, are there any government incentives that you're getting in this uh, in your
Radhika,
business?
ask government for it on this.
I
Please.
mean,
I
there
hope
might be
somebody.
some incentives or policies by the government. Number one, are there any existing policies? Number two, are you using them? And number three, since millets products are being exported at such a high level, are you also planning to get there eventually into exporting your flowers? Because your price is somewhere which European or the US countries might be able to afford easily.
Right. I'm going to give you a very negative answer for this, and I'm glad the elections are done. But there are a few yojnas that the government has started. So there's the Nidhi Seed program, there is the Farmers Yojana. All of these are directly there is a waste management, waste to wealth yojana as well. All of those are directly related to us and us as a company. In fact, there are yojanas for all women founders, all women equity. Both of us have all of the equity, right? We're bootstrapped, 100% bootstrapped. Uh, so there's no one on the cap table. So there are these yojanas, but if a product like, I mean, I'm super proud of our product, right? Dishita is super proud of our product. And everyone we've spoken to, they are just like, they have jaw-dropping responses. And they're just like, kaise kar rahe ho yaar? How are you all able to do it? And we're just like, aise nahi hua hai. It's taken us a good 2 years of tears and sweat, honestly, to sort of get to where we are. But if even then we've not gotten the grants, there are a lot of tech companies who I've heard around who've gotten the grants. There are in fact these drone companies who are doing digital scaling for farmers and crop rotation for farmers. They've gotten good grants, but
Mhm.
we, even after applying for several grants, have not gotten them. We've in fact asked agencies to do our grants, done our grants on our own. Kuch bhi nahi hua hai. There are a lot of
What is the
people who are
response that you're
around us.
getting? What is the response that you're
Sorry?
getting? What is the response that you're getting from the government? Why are they not
Getting
accepting?
rejections. We're getting rejections. Either there's no response, which is the most plausible option, no, and very very common. But if not that, so the Nidhi Seed program, right? That is monitored by NABARD. That needs to have a response. We've gotten rejection for it twice. I think this twice or once. We've gotten a rejection for that
Ishita,
three times. Oh, great. Thrice, yeah. So three times. So we've gotten a rejection rate, and now we're at that stage where all of our fixed capital has already been invested. So we're not looking for grants. What grants also does is gives us a good mentor base, or gives us a good sort of, I wouldn't even say confidence, because we don't need that confidence. Product or ban gaya hai. But what that gives us is a little connection, a little mentor base. Ki haan, chalo, we at least know that this is something that can be done, or this is something that we're doing. But we've not gotten any grants. Uh, when we talk about exports, I so we've spoken to a few companies. We've just started doing this. Target. We have a target of three countries that we want to work with. That we want to start sort of a conversation with. We don't know if the product is going to be accepted. This is not something that we've done and completed, and I can tell you ki haan ye ho gaya. This is something that we've been successful in. But we've started this because there are already existing brands in the market. People are much more in the market abroad, of course. People are much more aware of
Like,
sustainability as well as health as a segment
mhm.
abroad. There might be more acceptance. What is a little expensive for a B2B industry in India? 70 rupees, 75 rupees a kg is what our price is B2B, right? This is still very expensive for the people who are purchasing 25 rupees ka atta. So whole wheat you can get at 25 rupees. Obviously, or maida you can get for 22 rupees, right? So people generally take those heavily, easily available options, which are much cheaper, right? 75 rupees or even like 100 rupees per kg is not an expensive item in say the said country that we're talking about, or anywhere abroad. Which is why that's something that we want to sort of capitalize on as well.
Since you've just begun and now that you've actually found a very good product which has really good benefits, you've also studied the cost of other competitors. Are you planning to raise money for your brand? And has anyone already reached out to you for investments?
A couple of we're currently incubated at IIM Bangalore with Narcel, NSRCel. And what that does is gives us a lot of sort of, a lot of people suddenly know about what WastED does. Because of that, we've gotten a little exposure through VCs as well. There has been some conversation that we've done with a few VCs, and we've sort of tried to understand what the valuation could look like, uh, and what the term sheets could look like for them. But we've not agreed to anything yet. We're yet to have these conversations in depth. So close to, I think, 15 to 20 VCs today have our deck. And we've spoken to them. We don't really know what the valuation could look like, but yeah, it's somewhere down the pipeline, especially now because we want to do D2C. We want to create a community. We want to raise for awareness and for channel creation, to create a market, because we have the product, right? But we need to make sure that we're taking this product to the correct fit, and to find and recognize the correct fit is why we want to raise.
Maybe eventually you will find the right partner when the time comes, or maybe you will just grow big enough and not require any external investment. Because I do see it as a very good product. But overall, where do you see this entire industry heading? Because right now there's so much buzz about sustainability and healthy foods. Every day, if you just open up any Shark Tank episode, you will find at least one pitch which is into a healthier food option or a healthier drink option. So yeah, where do you see this entire industry heading? And maybe in the next 5, 10 years?
I think the healthy food segment in general is growing. The CAGR last year was I think 31%, if I'm not wrong, last financial year.
Okay.
And we're only hoping for that number to go up, right? But what that happens with that, what also happens is that there is a lot of competition and clutter in the market. Uh, and with mass brands like ITC already doing, so their marketing game is really good, right?
Yeah.
ITC, Britannia, for that matter, Amul, all of these companies, their marketing game is superb, right? So
Mhm.
even though they're marketing something that has maybe like a 7% protein as a protein biscuit or a protein flour, that
Mhm.
is going to sell much more than a startup which is investing heavily, probably much more effort is going into the startups. I'm not even talking about us. I'm talking about a normal startup which has been existing for say 2 years, 3 years, or 3 odd years, has been doing good amount of revenues as well.
Mhm.
Obviously, an ITC is going to sell the product much more than the said startup would.
Of
But
course.
that's only because they already have the existing brand name. So for
Yeah.
a smaller startup to create that brand name, it's going to take a lot of time.
Mhm.
And I think in the next 5 years, there are going to be a lot of companies that come and go. There are companies that are going to be there who want to survive, who want to become, say, the next Yakult. Yakult took 7 years,
Mhm.
7 years to get the acceptance that it gets today.
Mhm.
There are now moms that are feeding their kids Yakult every single day.
Yeah.
But back then, people were just like, why would I feed something like this to my child? Why would I eat this on a daily basis? Why would I give this to my mom or my grandmom? Right?
Mhm.
It has taken someone as big as Yakult to do, I don't know how many celebrity endorsements, I don't know how many movie ads, those commercials that come in, when your intermission is there. I don't know how many of those I've seen. So there's obviously a space in the market, but I think for the healthy food market, it needs to be for the longer run. If you have a vision for a long term sustainability ka vision hai that you want to stay put, even if you don't have say a good EBITDA, even if you have a single digit EBITDA, I think it's very important for you to just stay in the industry, create the brand name for yourself. It might just be the case that you become the next, say, Bajo Foods. I don't want to say ITC. People are going to think I'm crazy, but maybe you want to become the next Snackable. You want to become the next Bajo Foods.
Mhm.
Even if you achieve that standard and you come out with a much better product, see, consumers are going to be aware. If not today, tomorrow they are going to be aware. People
Exactly.
are going to look at the nutrition labels. There are people like the Food Farmer who
Mhm.
are fighting towards it. I don't know if it's actually going to be true or not, if it's actually how sooner or later that's going to happen, but it is going to happen, right? People are going to read how much protein, how much sugar, how much XYZ nutrition aspect they're consuming.
Mhm.
So whenever that happens, I think products like us are going to stand out. And there is going to be a little churn, if not a lot, there's going to be a little churn in the brands that we call our staples as. But obviously, I'm too optimistic because it's my baby. I don't know what the I don't know what the next 5 days are going to give me. So,
So thank you, Radhika and Dishita. Now we'll move to the final segment of our podcast, which is the rapid fire round. So in this, I'll be asking each one of you all 7 questions, and obviously the best answer wins, as you would have seen in the Karan Johar's show. So your answers have to be rapid and full of fire. And so yeah, let's start with Radhika first. So Radhika, what's the one quality of Dishita that you admire the most?
oh, I think her skill to sort of grasp something that is really quirky, really like out there. So there's no one who's going to go into the attention of detail as much as Dishita would. There are times when I have overlooked things because chalo karna hai. Like I just want to do it. Kar lo. For the sake of it, if the deadline is today, just do it. But Dishita has been one person who's going to say, no, this font is incorrect. This color is not the same as this color. I think that's where her experience and expertise really comes in. And sometimes as a consumer, that really matters.
Hmm.
As a founder, I might have a blind eye towards a lot of things, but Dishita will never let something substandard go out of wasted. 100%. She's not let it. She's not. In fact, that's the only reason why Dishita has done branding for wasted as well. That's the only reason why I approached no one else but Dishita. because that's the sort of experience I'd had for Kamlamrit, my first company as well. That that she made sure that everything that goes out, even with like a 500 follower page, she'd made sure that every post is ekdam prim, proper, perfect caption. Oh my! Like I was just like, just do it, and she's like, no, karna hi hai. Like this is what needs to be done. It needs to be done.
That's a lot of praises for Dishita. So now, what's the one habit of Dishita that you find annoying?
Oh, she's going to follow up like mad. She is going to follow up like a bug that will not leave you ever. She is going to talk about it in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, before the office day shuts, work day shuts. If that job is not done, I'm going to get a message at 12 a.m. and then again 7 a.m. when she wakes up, and then at 11 a.m. about the same thing, which is a good thing because that is also something that gets the job done. Because a lot of times, as a founder who's juggling with maybe 1,000 things at the same time, that one thing or those 10 things are going to be missed out on, right?
I hope Dishita also has equal praises for you when we come to her. But yeah, moving
I
on.
hope so.
The third question. So, what's a dream collaboration or partnership for WastED, which you would like to have?
Someone like an ITC or a Britannia, honestly, because that might not bring us good margins, but it would bring us the name, it would bring us the volumes. I think if we could tie up with a company that is already dealing into the masses, there's nothing more that we would want to do because economies of scale would bring our prices down. It would also actually reach every household.
Hmm.
A packet of say a wasted X ITC would reach every household, if not every, at least 1 in 5 households it would reach. That's something that alone wasted would not be able to sort of do in the next say 1 year, 2 years. I don't want to put a number to it, but in the say short term, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Great. I hope someone from ITC or Britannia sees this and they reach out to you. Uh,
Yeah.
that would be great, I think. Okay, so next question. If you could eliminate one unsustainable food practice, what would it be? Or maybe
Deep
an
frying.
unhealthy food practice that we all have. What would it be?
Oh, not even deep frying. I think double frying. Double frying is not something that a lot of people do know about, but 90% of the things that you see around you, be it your samosas or be it your, even for that matter, prasad, right? Prasad that you get is sometimes deep fried. Deep fried not once, but multiple times. What that does is the oil has now come to the normal temperature. The grain has accepted all of the oil. Again, it's exposed to a new set of oil. It's accepting the same amount of. So double frying or triple frying actually is much more harmful than single deep frying would ever be. But Indians are so used to the taste, the texture, the flaky texture, the flavor of I don't know what. But actually, even for that matter, bhujia is I think 48% oil, 48% oil, 30% besan. Who knows this? We're actually
Okay, so Radhika, if you weren't in the food upcycling business, what other profession would you pursue?
I'd be a lawyer. Yeah.
You'd
I
be a
think I'd
lawyer.
love to be a lawyer.
So
Yeah.
you
I love
pursued
to just
architecture.
argument
You
fight.
pursued architecture, and then you went into a very different business of food, which is not your core competency. And now you're telling me that you would have probably become a lawyer. So there are three
Yeah,
different.
so the thing with architecture is that my father is heavily into commercial and residential real estate.
Okay.
So that I've always seen the transactions happen. Actually, it was just the banya in me who thought paisa isse aayega. Hum ye karte hain. So and but now obviously like now I know me. So I know I can fight really well. I can argue really well. And I can prove my point really well.
So now, the sixth question for you, Radhika. So, which are these startups? Which number one you would invest in? Number two, acquire, which is 100% acquire, and number three, shut down. Like you think these they are not building a very good brand, or the product is not healthy or sustainable, or not something which aligns with your values. So, what is one startup in each of these categories? Invest, acquire, and shut down.
Okay. Invest. I would invest in a startup called Bamboo. They're in the similar space where they're using bamboo waste, sugarcane waste, and bamboo waste to create plastic, which is oxyplastic. That's what it's called. So this is 100% biodegradable plastic. It dissolves in water in 60 days. That's the lowest that an Asian country has been able to do. I think it got a very good round of funding as well. It's a great. I don't know, what the management looks like, but the product is great. Um, don't have even 1% of what the net worth of this company is. But the company is called Yash Pakka. It's again in a very similar space. It makes packaging and it's done very well in the Indian segment, in the Indian market. It's gone on to have factories in Guatemala and other Latin American countries as well.
Wow.
But they make cutlery out of waste. So that could be pineapple waste, sugarcane waste, any form of agricultural waste that they possibly can sort of get their hands on. They make something out of it. Their R&D lab is super. We happen to know the founders and the CEO and the founder of Yash Pakka. He has told us very vague and weird things. He's told us that they've been able to create cosmetic friendly, so food friendly and cosmetic friendly color out of pomegranate peels, and things that you can never imagine that are really possible. So if you're able to do something like that, you can actually completely sort of move away from adulteration. I don't know when India is going to reach that stage. But again, like I said earlier, sooner or later, it's going to happen. And these companies are the ones who are doing the R&D from today are going to be able to achieve these standards. Um, Next, you said who I'd want to shut down if I had the power to. Backlash is going to be heavy, but I would shut down someone like a Snackable, because they don't have the best products. They've done great marketing. They've gotten a very good range of SKUs, but what a lot of people don't understand is that they're not able to achieve the kind of sales that so X amount is being pumped into marketing, and I think one third of X is actually being able to be sold. There is almost always stock clearance, stock lying away for a company like Snackable. Plus, they've been able to achieve some 100 SKUs in the healthy space. Almost almost 90 of out of them are very marginally healthy. They might be non-fried, air popped, and air fried and all of that jazz, but you need to at least think about the ingredients that you're putting in. They say that they don't use any maida, but they're actually most of their products just have refined wheat flour. And they say that they use wheat flour to do it. Ultimately, even semolina, so dalia, semolina, normal whole wheat flour and maida. All of these come out of the same grain. It's
Hmm.
uh it's your normal gehu, it's your normal wheat, right?
Yeah.
It's just processed differently to get different nutrients. But it's very easy to fool the Indian consumer, and I think a lot of companies have been able to do it. It's very sad, but it's true.
Fair.
If you get something for really cheap, I think you're able to achieve this.
So one last question that we ask all our guests. So what's the one problem? It could be anything, not necessarily in your space, but what's the one problem that you'd pay for to be solved?
The water in the country to be cleaned, be it rivers, ponds, lakes, even India is a subcontinent. India is a country with I forgot what it's called, with three sides water, peninsula.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think it
it's
has also
yeah
700 kilometers of coastline, which is very huge for the
yeah
country. So
yeah, and it's so important for us to keep that clean. Odisha has been doing great in this aspect. They've given said coastline, said, like, they've privatized those beaches, which is again not the solution. I understand it's not the solution, but Puri, Odisha, even like Odisha is the only state which has visibility to dolphins, and pink dolphins, which are almost extinct around the world. So
mm,
Chilka Lake can give you dolphins. Puri can give you the cleanest beaches of India. In fact, like, people keep flocking to Goa. Goa beaches are, like, pardon my words, but they're so bad. They're so dirty all the time. And I go to Puri very often, like sometimes 4 to 5 times in a month, in a year. So I know what I know what the difference between clean beaches and like India should just really capitalize on its water.
Great.
Really, now is the time when we can change climate change. We can completely reverse it if we take even small steps towards it.
Hmm.
So that's one thing I feel.
Really interesting, Radhika. I think that was a great rapid fire round. I think you had very good reasons for all of your answers. And I don't know how were you able to articulate it so fast for rapid fire round. But yeah, great. So we'll move on to Dishita. So Dishita, what's the one quality of Radhika that you find most annoying?
I like how we start with the annoying one. Uh, it just, I feel what happens because both of us come from different skill sets. Like she said, follow up for me, it's just that she forgets sometimes. If I ask her to do something, it's forgotten. Hence the follow up. So just that. But I think what also helps is that when Radhika forgets, she forgets like the tinier ones, but not when it's like, so
Yeah.
Radhika handles a lot of B2B sales. When it's B2B sales, you forget one thing and that's it. So she's more conscious on like when it's something's in her domain, she's very sure that, okay, I'm going to make sure this happens. So that makes sure. So, by the way, we didn't mention it, but Radhika and I stay in different cities. So I stay in Calcutta and she stays in Jaipur.
Okay.
So this is what keeps this relationship going.
So question number two, what's one misconception people have about upcycled food products? Or maybe your food.
That it's expensive. So this is not just people, it's us also. It's a normal human tendency to think that something that is sustainable is either very expensive or it's not clean. So when I was a child and this whole like I think we were kids only when this whole sustainability thing had started, that upcycled is something honestly we learned very recently.
Hmm.
But sustainability as a goal had started that time. And I used to always think that कुछ गंदा है उससे कुछ अच्छा बनेगा तो matlab it's there's going to be some dirt attached to it. So that is one very common thing that Indians still have. Like everyone uses the word waste. We have to keep telling people it's a byproduct. That's something so simple as that. And second, expensive. So whenever we tell people it's a sustainable flour, most B2B manufacturers are like, "नहीं madam, हमारे पास पैसा नहीं है." And we are like, you need to hear the price point before judging us. So these are two things that I think more so in India than the world that people really perceive sustainability as.
Okay. What's the most rewarding aspect of running a food business or a sustainable or healthier food business?
On a lighter note, it would be all the food taste tests that we get to do. We take us to cook all the time for us. But the second part is so I was actually the a pro consumer of packaging food, which annoys Radhika to no level. Like if I'm dying of hunger, I'll never choose like dal chawal. I'll probably eat two biscuits and be like I'm done. But because of wasted, I've started reading more labels.
Hmm.
Like for example, I was just reading somewhere that a packet of Good Day biscuit, the cashew one, has half a cashew.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
saw that food farmer
the
guy,
more,
the reel.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the more that I'm becoming aware of it, I'm more conscious that yeah, I don't want to do this scam with people. That
Hmm.
I tell people that you know what, my product. That's why I'm going to harp on this because you're very proud of it. That's the only reason why we're not using chemicals or we're not fortifying the product in any way. Because I think I've faced this. I've had health issues all my life because of the amount of packaged products I've consumed. And
Hmm.
I won't lie that I still consume them because it becomes a habit and it's so
Yeah.
difficult
To
to
change.
let go.
Yeah.
So
Or
that's one thing that makes it very rewarding that I'm adding to the positives and not the negatives.
okay. So again, a similar question. If you weren't in the food upcycling business, what other profession would you pursue?
I think I was already doing that. I think I was born to be a marketer.
Marketer.
I think I'm still doing it. If I wasn't in, I'm marketing in food, I feel I can sell anything. Rather, I can pitch anything. I think Radhika can sell anything and I can pitch anything. I'll make everything look so good that the other person will want to buy it.
Amazing. What's one piece of advice for aspiring entrepreneurs in the sustainable food industry?
Just this is something that Ved had actually, the founder of Yash Paka, actually, who's a good friend to both of us, had told me that persistence is the key. So, because all of us are working in such a space which might not have a huge market right now, But that's probably the only market which is growing. When you look at other markets like commercial food, etc., everything is on the decline because people are becoming more conscious.
Too conscious.
Sustainability, etc., is something that is growing.
Hmm.
So just show up every day and have faith on your product and fight for your product that it is going to work. And that's it.
All right. So the last question for you: what's one problem, but in the food industry, that you would pay for to be solved?
What was happening to me? Cleaner labels. Because for the longest time, I mean, come on, cashew biscuit without cashews, banana chips without bananas. So all these are tomato ketchup. I think I was living on tomato ketchup for the longest time till I understood what's going in it. And I would keep telling my trainer that I'm on a no sugar diet, but I was having everything. So something like this. And both of us really endorsed the food farmers campaign of Label Padhega India because we started doing it because of WastED. My mom started doing it because of us. And this is how it's flowing slowly because we talk so much about it. Our near and dear ones are doing it. He's talking so much about it. India will start doing it. And that's only then that things are going to change because obviously it is going to have a short term negative impact on some people because imagine people who make Horlicks and Bonvita. It's crazy. I mean, suddenly the markets have just gone because people are conscious. But
Oh,
imagine what it is to the ultimate consumers.
agreed. I think
So that's
fantastic answers from both of you all, Radhika and Dishita. I think the rapid fire round was extremely fun for me, and it was so good to hear your candid responses about each other and also about your views about different things. We do not have hampers for you all, unfortunately, but what we'll do is we'll do a small poll in our video, and we'll see who the winner is based on the audience responses. So that is what we can do. But I think great overall podcast for me. I think I got to learn so much about a new industry. There were so many things I had no clue about, especially how alcohols are manufactured, the red zones, the entire process of your food production and how it goes out, the shelf lives, and so on. So I think it has been really, really insightful for me, and I'm sure it'll be very insightful for someone who's watching it, someone who is just wanting to get into entrepreneurship, wanting to start something of their own. I think your journeys will be very inspiring for them. And what I really like about such businesses is the cause that it has. So I think it's not like any other business that you're getting up and going to. It's a business with a cause, which also pushes you to continue it every day. So I think kudos to you all to be on a very good mission. And what I'll do is I'll also put in your bios and your website links in the description so that people can check you out. And I think one note which we can end is I think people would be curious, when are you guys planning to come into the D2C space or on these quick commerce platforms so that they can grab your products faster? So any tentative dates that they can look out for?
hopefully in 2 weeks. So we are on 15 June. We want to be live by 1st July. That's the goal. And please shop us and irrespective, still place orders on our website or just leave a query and we'd be happy to send products for tasting/testing as well because right now we're just building the company on the basis of feedback. So it would be great to have more of it.
Great. Radhika, any parting notes from your end?
Nothing. I'll just. I think hamper got stuck in my head, so I'll just wait for a hamper just in case.
That depends on you. But
But
yeah,
no, lovely podcast. Otherwise, I think it was a really candid conversation. We love having such conversations because we get multiple views as well. I'm hoping for your viewers to sort of see this, share their feedback, what they think about our product or our company, or in general this entire space, what they think about nutrition, what they think about health, the healthy food segment. I'd really be interested to understand all of that.
great. I think to all our viewers, make sure you check out Let's Get Wasted and you also try their food products. And until next time, stay curious and keep innovating. Thank you.
And let's get wasted.
Let's get wasted.
Thank you, Mayank.